marriage. She runs a program called 2 equals 1. It's an amazing program for couples, but then also for those who are planning on getting married. And last year, and even at the beginning of this year, we had Vanessa join us in studio talking about a number of different issues and topics when it comes to the conversation of marriage. But today, we want to zoom in on something that's a bit more, how do I say this, Vanessa? Something that's a bit more what? Something that's a bit more deep, real, an issue that no one really talks about, an issue that no one wants to talk about, but it's a reality within the church. What am I talking about? Well, it's your marriage versus your responsibilities to the church and your relationship to your pastor. What does that look like, and how do you navigate that? And, well, what is the position of the church when it comes to these conversations? Vanessa hasn't been with us in a very long time since we moved here. So this is, I think, it's your first time in this year. First time in this year. So good afternoon to you. It's good to see you again. It's been long.
It feels long.
No?
Yeah.
It feels like we've seen each other last year.
It was last year, though.
Serious?
Ah,
No, it couldn't have been.
wasn't it?
No.
Well, we were...
Feb? No?
No.
Wow. Okay. Well, welcome to the new studios. Welcome. It looks nice, ne?
It does.
It looks
does.
no,
Really
very
nice.
cozy.
Yes.
Very cozy as well.
Agree.
Okay, Vanessa. The position of the church. You just said that this conversation and this topic is quite relevant to you because you've been recently in a conversation when it comes to this type of topic. Talk to me about that very quickly.
Well, the challenge is actually, as a leader or a pastor, there might be things happening in church, but you don't have the strengths or trained in a certain way to handle certain things. And so when you in that position, the question is, what do you do? Do you turn a blind eye? Do you address? What do you do? And I think that was the conversation we had the past few days in terms of there are real issues in church because we're dealing with real people.
Yeah.
And just on the topic of challenges, example, in marriage, if you know there's a couple that's having some challenges, and so much so that you hear of it over and over again, and there's talks of divorce. So what do you do as a leader? And so we find that some leaders, because the topics are so sensitive and might be the reasons for the misunderstanding and the conflict and maybe wanting to divorce is also so sensitive, not knowing how do I handle this. So we find that some leaders are actually just turning a blind eye in terms of, can I call it the blind eye? Not really. Maybe talking when we engage, maybe when we see each other by the way, maybe in church or at the event, but not making the time to meet one-on-one with that particular couple.
I mean, part of it could also be the fact that they are just not trained when it comes to these things. They are not trained. Now, when we talk about the older generation, right, who was often the leaders, it's difficult for them because, they come from a generation where your marriage, everything, the issues, does your haste, does your dinge, you deal with that over there, and you kind of don't bring that into the church. Now, listen, I've heard countless of stories of couples that shared, those who are divorced, those who left the church simply because they were having an issue within their marriage. And let's say, just as an example, which is a real life example, the wife has been physically abused within the marriage, but the husband is either, he's been in the church for a long time, or maybe miskien is hy op die raad of iets soos daai. And then it becomes a conversation of the leaders looking at the wife saying, yes, but maybe just do this, or, maybe just do that. And it becomes a case of you are a victim, but we're kind of turning it around to say, no, man, we don't think this one will actually do that. So then the question becomes, how should the church navigate this conversation between marriage, the constitution of God, and being a leader within the church, and kind of bringing these two together so that you don't separate it? How do you go about that?
So cool. I think first and foremost, leaders are supposed to equip the saints, support them. Paul says, pray for them. I pray for you. And sometimes when there are these challenges, many times, if I can remember as a young person or a child, it was, "Nie ons gaan bid." We will pray about it. But praying is one way of dealing it, but that's not the only way, and not doesn't always bring the solution in terms, yes, prayer is a solution, but sometimes there's underlying things, root things that needs to be addressed that is not addressed. And so if a female come and being abused, if the pastor or the leader is not that confident, then refer. And we need to understand that maybe we are not trained in certain areas. Maybe we don't have that confidence and that skill to talk to people in terms of certain topics. Then we need to refer them. We need to understand what is our strengths, what is our capabilities, and what we've been trained in, and understand maybe that is not my forte, and then refer. But we cannot, I think the church needs to wake up. We cannot turn a blind eye, and at the end of the day, we lose people. People leave the church.
100%. Look, another part of this, though, is, yes, we're talking about the leaders, right? And unfortunately, rightfully so, some of our church leaders are not equipped to deal and handle certain situations. It's like, at school, for example, teachers aren't trained as counselors. So, it's the same conversation where, if you are going to become a leader in the church, and this is now just a generalized thought process for the church, if anyone is going to become a leader within the church, the leadership in the church should be trained, or at least have some sort of basic training when it comes to these things. The other part, Vanessa, that has been quite contentious when it comes to church and marriages, oh man, it's this thing of Vanessa is so committed to the pastor and to the responsibilities and what the pastor is asking Vanessa to do. But if Vanessa's husband, if John asks Vanessa, nee. And so John sees how Vanessa is more committed to the pastor and to the church than what she is committed to her role as the wife or as the husband, i.e. within the marriage. So now I want to talk to married couples, because this is a couple thing, right? How do you navigate that?
Let me take you back to our we've started 2 equals 1. I think we are about by lesson 3, and we spoke about synergism on Saturday. And this is indeed where we spoke about the roles of the wife and the roles of the husband. And so the question came up now, what is more important, the church or the husband?
Okay.
And the order, there's an order. So it's Christ, and then obviously the husband, and then the husband, obviously then the wife. So obviously, now the question was in terms of, so if the husband is above or the covering of the woman or the wife, then where does the church fit in? Isn't the church the most important thing? I think that is what we're getting at now.
Okay.
And so your question is, if there is some challenges or things that's happening, what is more important? The church? And I said, you need to discern. Family is more important. My children, my husband, if there is something that needs my immediate attention, then that is where my attention must be. If there's any other activities of at the church and responsibilities, I need to communicate, and the church must be ready to understand that family is important. My children are important. And I think that was Saturday the conversation in terms of, but isn't the church more important? And many times the church and the responsibilities are more, it's actually priority for us. And then we put all the other things, we put it aside and we say we can address that later, or we can pay attention to that later. Sometimes we feel that children feel left out as pastors' kids because they can wait. No, they are in the house and I first need to tend this and that, And I feel that is many times the challenge in what I've seen in terms of pastor kids and even my own children, that I realize, this is because I was so involved with Operation Christmas Child and church ministry. So Operation Christmas Child kept me so busy. Almost every day I had a meeting. Weekends we had outreach, we had training. or I go to Beaufort West or George. It was like that. I was not at home 2 times on my son's birthday.
Yeah.
You see, and now you ask yourself, I missed that birthday and I resigned from OCC. I cannot get that back again. And that is where we need to zoom in and see what is actually important.
I love that. What is actually important? We also understand that the God is all about family. He's very family orientated. And although the church is important and you've got responsibilities and you've got duties, the church can never supersede your marriage. Again, it's one of those discerning moments. Vanessa, thank you so much. It's always lekker and a pleasure chatting to you this afternoon. Ran out of time. Wish we could have continued this conversation a bit more. But I think maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll just continue unwrapping this conversation because there's so many different elements to it.
Yeah, I just wanted to also now just look for the exact scripture in terms of your responsibility as a leader, is to take care of your household first and foremost. That's what the word says. If you want to be a leader, that is where your responsibility must first be with your household, taking care of your household, managing your household. So it didn't say the church first, it's the household first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have the scripture with you?
I actually wanted to check quickly exactly where it is.
Okay. While you do that, let me say my goodbyes. Of course, this conversation is live on Facebook as well, so you can go ahead and check out the full conversation on Facebook in case you want to go back to it again for any notes. Every Wednesday at 20 to 6. Every Wednesday at 20 to 6. Vanessa will join me in studio. We'll chat all things around marriage. We'll have these difficult conversations every Wednesday around this time. Some days we might even have couples in studio as well to kind of share their journey and to share their testimony. So this happens every Wednesday. Make sure to tune in case you want to tune in again come next week and Wednesday. Okay.
Can I read it?
Do you have the scripture?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
So 1 Timothy 3 verse 5 says, "For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God?"
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Do with it what you will. 5 minutes before news comes up on top of the hour. Back again tomorrow for the afternoon drive. Same time, same place, 4 till 6 p.m. It's going to be a lekker one. To Vanessa, thank you.
Pleasure.
It's always
Honored
lekker to
be
have
here.
you. Right, it's going to be a lekker one.